I'm Chris Bean, your Vice President for Institutional Advancement here at Fisher. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our final first Friday of the 75th anniversary year. It's been quite a year, and I hope that all of you have had opportunity to either see the exhibit downstairs, attend other First Friday events, or attend some of the other events and see some of the things that we've been doing to celebrate Fisher's rich and vibrant history that brought us to where we are today. And I can think of no better person to talk about the future of Fisher now in this last First Friday than our 7th president, Dr. Jerry Rooney. Dr. Rooney has been here for a third of that 75 years. So he has the history. Sorry, Jerry. But he has the history and the vision. So without further delay, Dr. Rooney.
I feel older each day. I don't need to be reminded of it. But good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. Good to see many familiar faces. It's a great time of the year. We're not only finishing our 75th anniversary year, but we're concluding the fall 2023 semester. So our students have about 2 weeks of classes left and are readily preparing, even as we speak, for those finals. And of course, the start of the Advent season comes along at this time of the year too. So it's great to be with you. I'd like to, before I begin, just acknowledge two folks who are here with us who are members of the Pioneer class. So I've been here for a third, and it's the recent third. These two gentlemen have been here for the whole while. And so it's my pleasure to what's he telling me? Oh, Vince, I just said hello to you, so I'm sorry that I'm overlooking you. But like to welcome especially Dr. Don Mensch, retired professor emeritus. How many years at the institution?
Enough.
Enough years. Vince Alfieri, who is here with us. Vince, a special welcome to you. And Jack Palvino. Jack, a special welcome to you and to Joyce. And in addition to being a Pioneer graduate, thank you for your board service. Jack serves currently as an emeritus trustee, former board chair, of course, a well-recognized voice in the Rochester community for those of you who are here. So I'd like to this morning share with you an overview of a number of things. It is in fact a state of the university, but it might be different a little bit from state of whatevers you've heard before. So it'll be a compilation of different topics, different priorities, certainly with a look toward who Fisher is today, as we celebrate the great legacy of our institution and look ahead a little bit to the next 75 years, which I think we have very much reason to be optimistic and hopeful about. So all things that we do begin with the mission of the institution, and just to look with you at that. We are today very much aligned with the founders' vision for the institution, in my judgment. And our mission statement is fairly simple and straightforward. It's 3 sentences. I think in the first sentence, the important words to me are that we're a collaborative community. Fisher has always been such, and our collaborations are both here on campus within our community, and they extend to the community. And we're dedicated to 3 things: teaching, learning, and scholarship. And scholarship is a newer one of those for those of you who have been around the institution for a while. And it really goes back to about 2010, when the Carnegie Foundation, which categorizes institutions, moved Fisher to a doctoral research university level in recognition of the scholarship associated with several of our doctoral programs, which are pharmacy and executive leadership in education, and the doctorate in nursing practice. So those 3 disciplines have really led us as a community to a rich interest in scholarship and activity in scholarship, which is not only at our faculty level, but it's extended nicely down into the student population as well. So scholarship, teaching, learning, and then we're a student-centered educational environment, which is important. Really, what we do, how we operate, is informed by the perspective of how it impacts and benefits our students. They are the people that we're here to serve collectively, and so we try to bring that mindset to all that we do. The middle sentence really recognizes and situates us both in our history and who we aspire to be today. Without the Basilian Fathers, we would not be. We've adopted their motto as our own to teach goodness, discipline, and knowledge. And though we moved to independence from the Catholic Church formally in 1968, when Father Lavery lobbied the state to provide state support for independent institutions, what is called Bundy aid, which we still receive today, that required us to move away strictly from a Catholic institution to an independent institution, which continues to embrace its Catholic heritage. So that middle sentence is very important to us as far as the guidance and direction that we take and who we aspire to be. And then, of course, the outcome of the education, both for our students as well as for those of us with the opportunity to work each day with them, is that we engage in intellectual activity, professional integrity, and civic responsibility, where diversity and service to others are valued in practice. So hopefully in some of the things that I present to you today and that we talk about, you'll see our mission statement reflected. Our students about 25 years ago drafted what they called the Fisher Creed. And it was drafted by the students really at a time when Dr. Keel was early in her presidency. There was great aspiration and hope for what the institution might become, and there was a new sense of energy with her arrival. And the students wanted to put their mark on who the population of students would be and how they would interact with each other as they were here. So the Fisher Creed talks about values that we bring to the campus and aspirations that we hold as a campus. And I won't read these to you, but these are the 8 values that are represented in the Fisher Creed. Fisher Creed continues to be a document that is alive today. In fact, yesterday, all of our first-year students who entered this year signed the Creed. They now study each of these values in the Creed as part of their first semester with us in the first-year seminar that they participate in. And then that Creed is hung over in the campus center as a reminder to all of us of what we aspire to be collectively as a community. I keep typically the most recent creeds that are signed in the president's office as a reminder to everyone who comes there too of what we aspire to be as a campus community. And of course, for our students and with our students, we look to provide an education that has outcomes. And so the outcomes that are listed here, again, I won't read to you, but they have been developed in concert with the National Association for Colleges and Employers. NACE is an organization that works with institutions to help align their education to workplace needs or to further research and educational opportunities. So as a campus community in our educational pursuits directly and in the degree programs that we offer, we try to build competencies in these outcomes that you see here. We don't do our work to be recognized by others, but when our work is recognized, we're certainly proud of that. So these are some recent accolades. Across the top line there, you see best colleges rankings, which is U.S. News and World Report. The national universities is the category that Fisher is in. We used to be a regional university. Now we're compared to national universities because of the change that I earlier noted by the Carnegie Foundation and how we're classified as an institution. The two on the right, as you look at the screen, are ones that we're quite proud of. It's a best value ranking, and the other one is social mobility. So Fisher has always been about affordability and accessibility. And so these two, in our mind, represent that great commitment that the institution has had through the years and that we continue to embrace today. Across the middle, there are a few that you might recognize. Princeton Review, if you've heard of those things. So these are ones that you don't apply for, but that are given to you based on results that you achieve. So we're pleased to be in the Northeast region of Princeton Review. Niche is a very popular website for students today. They rank a variety of things about the campus itself, the campus experience, the living environment, and such. So Fisher is proud to, in New York State, have been #1 for the beauty of the campus, #1 in campus residence halls, and #1 in campus food. So that latter category may be a change from when some of you were here. And then across the bottom, these are distinctions that, again, we don't apply for, but because of what we achieve and what we offer, we've been recognized for. So the college is a distinction overall, those in New York State, particularly for career development, which we're very proud of because we focus on that from the very beginning. And then in the discrete schools that you see there as well. The institution itself has grown in its impact, not only locally, but in higher education. As a 75-year-old institution, we're still a relative newcomer to the landscape of higher education across the country, but we now have 34,000 alumni, which is quite an accomplishment as of last May. Our total enrollment today is above 3,700, and I'll talk a little bit more about enrollment as we go forward. Nearly 93% of students enrolled last fall were residents of New York, including 50% who were from the Rochester Metro, so Monroe, basically, in the counties contiguous to Monroe. This is changing a little bit as we go along. We're becoming certainly a broader geographic-based institution, and we'll get into some of that as we go. So this is more kind of who we've been, and one of the changes I think that we'll see as we move along is that the geographic reach of the institution will certainly grow in coming years. And then our alumni, about 80% lived in New York, including the percentage that you can see there in the Rochester area, which actually is an advantage for us as we do our work as an institution, because having that many alumni around gives us great avenues of connection to industry, to internships, to the ability to engage with alumni in a continuing way. One of the items that you saw in our mission statement was a reference to service to the community. And I'm very proud of our engagement with the community, which is both students, its faculty and staff. It's academic coursework that benefits the community, and it's certainly volunteer work that our community does as part of their educational training. So we have the number of hours at the top there, which is broadly community service. Faculty and staff also are engaged in the community, which we encourage. The 56 courses that are the third bullet there, we have community engaged learning. So that's actually a partnership between our faculty member teaching a particular class and a community-based organization or someone in the community where the content of that course is used to produce a product that is of benefit to the community agency. So that's across all of the 5 schools, which is really, I think, a wonderful contribution on the academic side. And it also helps the students to engage more around learning and tangibly learn about whatever the content is of the course that they're engaging. And the final bullet is a representation of the required clinical components or internship requirements that are part of the disciplines that are listed there. So nurses have to do clinical hours, pharmacy students have to do preceptorships, student teachers go along with education and such. There's really a great wealth of experience that our students and faculty and staff bring to the community engagement. And the impact that we have is growing. As we grow, there will be more graduates who will be living and working in Rochester and elsewhere in New York and beyond. We try always, as we look at our ability to bring new academic programs on, to have them meet 3 criteria: that they are mission consistent, that they're market responsive, and that they're fiscally viable. And so that market responsiveness to community need is something that's always been part of Fisher. Our founding was designed to create opportunity for people who were not able to access higher education at the time and provide an opportunity to a broad education and then also have a pathway to a career. So we continue to embrace that, and our ability to bring new degree programs on actually helps us to be stronger as an institution that benefits the community as well. And then we're continuing to invest. I'll talk more about that as we go forward. So that brings the community to us. It creates jobs and employment and enriches the economy locally. And then we consider ourselves an anchor institution, which is language that higher ed uses for institutions that are place-based and that embrace the opportunity of being in a community. So we are, in fact, an anchor institution in Rochester, meaning that we're here, we're proud to be here, and we're committed to the good and vibrancy of the community. Future investments are another area of impact. Over the next 5 years, we anticipate an investment of more than $100 million in our physical plant. One of the things that presidents do, I think, is to do what's necessary in their tenure as president. When Dr. Keel was here, certainly when Dr. Bain was here, in my experience, the institution needed new buildings in order to deliver academic programs that would afford us the opportunity to grow enrollments and the impact of the institution. Beyond that, we're fortunate to have that investment have taken place. We are now here and we have a vibrant community and it's aging, and some of our buildings need reinvestment. You're talking about the library as one coming up that I'll talk more about, but in 2025, the library will be 50 years old. Ward Hall, our first residence hall, opened in 1964, as some of you know, and then Haffey opened a year later. So some of the academic enterprises is aging and it's still vital. We don't need new, but we do need to reinvest. So this represents that reinvestment primarily in the years ahead. And those, you know, that investment on our part will create opportunities in the community as well. So looking at some institutional initiatives, we're guided by a strategic plan. I think as any good organization would be, ours is entitled Renewing Our Purpose and Broadening Our Impact, because that is what Fisher is able to do now as a more mature institution. But we never want to lose sight of who we are and what our founding purpose was. So there are 5 pillars in the plan. This plan has served us from 2018 to 2023. Last summer, as a campus community and through the spring semester last year, we refreshed the plan because there was a lot in the pandemic that didn't get done, and there were a lot of advances that we actually made in the pandemic as well. But we're still embracing the pillars as the major construct of that. So just to give a little bit more insight into the pillars, intellectual engagement is really more about the curriculum and innovative approaches to academic programming. One of the things that we want to do is to provide thought leadership beyond the campus. So an example of this would be our Golisano Institute for Developmental Disability Nursing, which takes the competencies of the Wegman School of Nursing faculty and staff and applies that to a special population, which the Golisano Foundation is interested in this instance, developmentally disabled individuals. And so the Institute trains nurses in the care of intellectually and developmentally disabled individuals, and then extends that reach through a fellowship program across the nation and including several countries around the world. So that intellectual engagement is not just here, but it's taking our assets and moving them and putting them out there for the good of the community. Of course, student success is vital to everything that we do. And so we're working to create an environment in which all students would both feel welcome, challenged, and that they would have an opportunity to complete their educational goals and aspirations. Community engagement is a pillar. I think I've spoken a bit about that already. Our mission statement references both service and it mentions diversity as well. And that certainly is an area that we're focused on. And I would argue from the beginning, we always have been. Today's early students who came to Fisher would be considered, from what the language today would be, as underrepresented backgrounds in higher education. And certainly as an institution, we continue to aspire toward that. And of course, overall, any good organization looks at itself, tries to improve along the way, you know, both our business practices, but then, you know, really all aspects of governance and associated operations. So those planned pillars continue to guide us through 2025 now. Institutionally, we're accredited by one of 6 regional accreditors in the United States. Ours is the Middle States. These are distributed around in the institutions in each region. in order to operate and receive Title IV funding, which is where all of the federal financial aid programs come through, need to be accredited by their regional accreditor. So Fisher is accredited by Middle States now. That process of continuing accreditation used to be a 10-year cycle. It's moved to 8 years. And so we're in a 2-year self-study period leading to a spring 2025 visit by a team of peers, after which they'll submit a report to the commission, and then we will receive reaccreditation. That's the plan, is to receive reaccreditation. So that the process is led on campus by 2 of our campus leaders. Matha Thornton is our vice president for student affairs, and Eileen Limbalta is a long-serving member of the community, faculty first, and more recently as the associate provost. We have campus-wide representation on a steering committee, and we're working through that process now. This is just a timeline looking at where we are in that process. It's one that really allows the community to reflect upon what it does well, where there are opportunities for improvement, and to develop plans and reports that would be able to be presented to others to help them understand all that we've accomplished. Not only do we have institutional accreditation, but we operate in 5 schools today, as most of you know, and these schools have their own accreditation. The School of Arts and Sciences is a little bit different. It is the largest of our schools, and it includes a wide array of majors. And so there are majors within arts and sciences that have discrete accreditations. 2 that are listed here is the ACS, which is the American Chemical Society. Fisher has long had that. And then COSMA is associated with our sports information or our sports management program. It is today. So we were the first institution in New York State to receive this COSMA accreditation. So those are disciplinary accreditations as opposed to school accreditation. School of Business, and then we'll see the School of Ed, and then nursing and pharmacy are accredited by broader organizations. The AACSB listed here is the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business, which is the premier accreditation for business worldwide. The Ralph C. Wilson Jr. School of Education has the accreditation through the Council for the Accreditation of Education Programs. Wegmans School of Nursing is accredited by the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education. We also have a master's in mental health counseling that we offer within the Wegmans School of Nursing, which is accredited by the group on the right there, which is KCREP, which is the accreditation for continuing and related educational programs. Then, of course, the Wegmans School of Pharmacy is accredited by the Association for Pharmacy Education. So those accreditations help us to receive recognition. They help us to be known in places where people don't know Fisher. They look for accreditations very often. And then it helps us to be continuous improving as well, because we have to be reaccredited by each of those. So they look at faculty, they look at curriculum, they look at outcomes and progression. And so these are ways that we differentiate ourselves in the market, but help to become more institutionally excellent as well. The academic program updates. Over the last year or 2, we've added a couple of undergraduate programs. This first one, BA in Athletic Performance, is a multidisciplinary program that leads people typically to achieve a accreditation, a personal certification in exercise and strength training, and we prepare them to go out and work in either rehabilitation facilities. There's a new facility that the U of R is building over in Henrietta. These graduates will be able to plug into that workforce and provide services. Public relations is something that we've always had communication and journalism here at the institution. We've now moved that into digital marketing and a variety of other things that are more current, and public relations is something that we have a lot of graduates who have gone on to, and we've added that as a bachelor's degree as well. There's been a real progression in the graduate student segment from ground-based learning to online learning. And so pharmacy and nursing are 2 good examples of that. And there are 2 largest online programs, in addition to both being offered still on ground. So the doctorate in pharmacy practice beginning in 2019 offered a fully online program. We have people here in Rochester studying, and we have people in 23 states around the country who are participating in that program too. They come to campus 3 times a year for an immersion experience. The curriculum online and on ground is the same, moves at the same rate. So when they come for these immersion experiences, they get to know the ground-based students. The ground-based students get to know the others. And so it's really a very strong way for us to expand the market, maintain the enrollments in pharmacy, which have experienced a little bit of a downturn over the years from when we first started it. There are a lot more pharmacy providers today from an educational standpoint. Fisher was the 89th institution to offer a pharmacy doctorate in 2005 when we got into that market. Today, there are 150 institutions that offer the pharmacy doctorate, including many that are right here in New York State. So the online expands the market, enables us to remain competitive. This year, for the first time, we have more online learners in pharmacy than we actually do on ground. The nurse practitioner masters in our Wegman School of Nursing is one that is now offered fully online in addition to on ground. And this has moved rapidly to being primarily online, even for people in the local area. And it's really a function of people wanting to be able to fit things into their lives as they're able to. So the fact that we've made that program available to them in that way, and they're accessing it, will help to assure us of having a competitive presence in the market. So the other 3 that are listed here are ones that have also moved to online. I would anticipate probably 5 over the next 5 to 10 years that probably all of our master's graduate and the master's and doctoral programs will move in this direction. Some may maintain a ground-based offering as well. All will have some kind of continuing connection in terms of bringing the online learners to campus. But this is definitely the direction that graduate education in the U.S. is going. And that's been fueled a little bit by the pandemic. We've moved the EDD, which is our executive leadership doctorate, to a hybrid model. And the hybrid model means that instead of coming every other weekend throughout the year, these students are now able to come once a month. So again, it's a movement toward more flexibility on the part of the individual learner and their ability to control a little bit more of the schedule. That will probably also continue to evolve into a program that has an online offering. And then in development, it's important for us. Fisher, although we are growing, our financial strength is still 90% tuition reliant. So as a younger institution, we rely very much on tuition and fees, which of course are driven by programs that have market demand. That's a generational change that we hopefully will leave the institution in a better place through our service of tenure. But for this generation, we're going to remain tuition reliant. And so new programs are important. So the 3 that are listed here are ones that are in the development process. There's a real need for certified registered nurse anesthetists. That affords anesthesiologists the opportunity to expand their practice. And there's a shortage of CRNAs. So we are working with Rochester Regional Health. You need, in order to offer this program, you need access to operating rooms. And so Rochester Regional has committed to that. And that program will begin in the spring of 25. We're also offering a second baccalaureate accelerated nursing degree program. The U of R currently is the other provider of this program, but there's a real shortage in nurses in the workforce, as you may know, locally and beyond. And there's a transient nature to the nursing workforce post-pandemic, where visiting nurses are coming into communities for higher rates of pay, but it's not a sustainable model. So there's a need for more nurses. So in addition to the traditional baccalaureate, the second baccalaureate degree program would enable somebody who has a degree in another area to come in and do this program in about 12 to 16 months and come out as a registered nurse. And then the adult degree completion market is actually the largest market of students that there is. So these would be people who began college at some point in time, but did not finish for whatever reason. So they have credits that they've accumulated, but they don't have a degree. And the most popular area for those students to come back and study is in business administration. So we're planning now to offer a BBA, which we actually offered at the start of the institution. That's evolved to a BS in business today. It used to be a BBA. So we're going to have a accelerated adult degree completion program, which would help us to meet that market demand and bring people together in cohorts who would have some credit but not a degree, and advance them toward that. I mentioned earlier research and scholarship, and this is just one slide that would help to demonstrate that. Each year we have a lot of research that's going on at the institution. Some of it's funded at the national level. We're very proud to say other is funded by local foundations, or the institution supports it itself. But I'm really very proud of the amount of undergraduate research that actually takes place too. And would be remiss to not acknowledge Dr. Kristen Picardo, who has led that effort through the year. So Kristen, thanks for your leadership with that. So our undergraduate students participate in mentored research with our own faculty and staff members. And it's really a great way for them to understand more about the research process, but it's also a great thing for them to have capability and be able to present as a credential as they move beyond Fisher. So each year we have a showcase to which you would all be welcome. I always find it very inspiring, kind of the range of research and the really the capability of our student that is presented through their work of research, which they do at this event. So it happens in the spring, and it's a celebration of scholarship and research in our community. Looking a little bit more specifically at enrollment, a lot of the popular media is talking about the demographics of the coming period of time. You may have heard that in 2026, which is 18 years after 2008, if you remember what happened in 2008, there was a financial crisis. The birth rates in 2008 and the following years were the lowest that they've been. So those students who were not born then are not coming to college in the middle of 20. So as a result of that, institutions are really doubling down on expanding the breadth of market, the opportunities of programs. Again, for a tuition dependent institution to the degree that we are, it's really essential that we do that. So these enrollment figures are for the fall semester. So we had 3,700 students with us. You can see some budget figures here just to give you an idea of how we did against what we expected. That's our highest total enrollment since 2018. Did have a little bit of fluctuation during the pandemic, but we feel that we're back now. Certainly this semester has felt much more engaged, and the students are really embracing all of the extracurricular opportunities and co-curricular opportunities, and certainly the classroom environment is alive as well as it's been in the past. Credit hours is how we actually measure things. So you can see 49,000 credit hours here. We have populations of undergraduate, full-time, and graduate students. So we have a good distribution there. We have capacity on campus for about 1,500 people to live with us. This year we had close to about 1,450 at the start of the fall semester. Always want to leave some room for people who need to change rooms or for illness that might come in. And so you want some flexibility in there. And then our first to second year retention rate is 84%. So that means that 84% of the students who entered last year as first year students came back for their second year. So this is a number that we're working to get up. This has taken a hit with the pandemic. We were up to about 88%. One year having achieved 90%. So 84 is not where we want to be, but the good news is it's higher than it was last year by a percentage. So we think that will continue to move forward. Our first year class included about 600 students. They were a historical high in terms of their academic averages coming to us. Diversity is at an all-time high, 21% of our first year students. 49 students in that 600 were from out of state. They represented about 15 states. And most of the out of state activity that we get is related to intercollegiate activity, intercollegiate athletics activity. So student athletes come from further distances to participate in our athletic programs. We had good distribution of the first year students by school. And then we have some special programs that met the expectations as well. Transfer students, we enroll each year about 200 transfer students. This is an area that's been a little bit of a challenge for us in recent years. We used to enroll about 350 transfer students over the course of an academic year. That's down to about 200. Those students come primarily from the two-year student market, the community colleges. Monroe is one of the largest community colleges in New York State. We used to get many more students from Monroe than we did. Their enrollment 10 years ago was closer to 20,000. Today it's under 10,000. When Andrew Cuomo was the governor of the state of New York, he introduced an Excelsior Scholarship Program, which affords students from families with incomes of $150,000 or less the opportunity to attend a SUNY institution free of charge. And so that is our demographic as well. So it overlays with us. It hasn't had as much of an impact on independent four-year institutions as it has on two-year New York State institutions. So part of the reason for MCC's enrollment decline is that the students who used to go there for affordability reasons can now afford to go straight to a four-year SUNY. It's good for them. It's not good for us because we can't recruit them then coming out of a two-year degree. So we've seen a little bit of a softening in that transfer market, which continues. And then at the graduate level, we've really seen strong numbers, and we've seen an important shift, which I alluded to earlier, which is that nearly 60% of our graduate students are in online programs. So that's something that will continue to increase as we go forward. Looking ahead, we are continuing to look for growth and stability in enrollments. We plan for new academic and athletic offerings that will help us to offset some of the competitive environment that we're in the demographic decline. The completion program that I mentioned and the second back nursing are ones that we're factoring in for growth. The CRNA program that I mentioned is there. And then we're considering a doctoral program in mental health counseling as well. That's a field that we have about 80 students each year who are going through our mental health counseling master's program. There's a real need in the market today for that. And you need doctorally prepared people to be able to teach those who are earning a master's degree. So the level of preparation of faculty always has to be one level above whatever the degree offering is, unless you have the highest degree there. So just looking ahead over the next couple of years, so this takes us from 24 up to 28. We're looking to continue to grow as a result of the program development that I've referenced in ways that you see here. The largest chunk of that is the undergraduate full-time population, which in this model grows from 2619 to 2760. And then master's is gray there and the doctoral is yellow. So you see some continuing growth in the graduate segment as well. But the undergraduate full-time population, people have asked, is the undergraduate population suddenly going to move in the direction of online? And the answer to that is really that students are looking for some flexibility within their course schedule, but they're still looking really for that residential environment where they can come and live and experience the type of institution that we've been for years. Athletics is a key component of what we do. We have about 700 of our 2,600 full-time undergrads who are rostered athletes. When I first came to Fisher, we had about 10 intercollegiate Division III sports. We've used facilities development athletically to help us to attract new students who then help to grow the enrollment. So it's really been a strategy along the way. As we institutionally embrace goodness, discipline, and knowledge, Bob Ward, our athletic director, and his team have embraced this good, smart, and talented. So really what we're looking for is students who are good people, those who are able to get through their education, because at the Division III level, when you graduate, your athletic participation is typically concluded formally, and then we want them to be talented, obviously, as well. So this Learfield Directors Cup standing is one that places Fisher's Division III programs in the aggregate against the 450 other Division III programs of intercollegiate participation at the Division III level. So we're very proud to be moving in a positive direction there, having achieved a top 10% recognition. So that's top 10% of all Division III programs across the nation. So that's, you know, a top 50 ranking, which is something we're very proud of. Our men's intercollegiate teams are listed here. The most recent additions has been men's volleyball and wrestling. Wrestling was one we had years ago, and then it went away, and it's now come back. We have a beautiful wrestling practice facility over in Michael House. You have a chance to go over and see that. It's the space where, when I first got to Fisher, used to be the community theater was there, maybe the something doc theater, I think it was called. And so it's in that room. So that's an example of kind of a repurposed facility that we're looking to do more broadly across campus. The women's intercollegiate teams are listed here. And rowing has been the most recent addition. We row over on the Genesee River. We started out actually in Pittsford on the canal. And so it's nice to have that sport for our female athletes. We are fully embracing Division III at the NCAA level, and we feel it's the right level for us to be. It focuses on student athletes, and we think that's the right balance. We try to do all that we can to assure students the opportunity to participate despite the rigor or demands of their academic programs, and minimize out-of-class time and academic conflicts. And along the bottom, you can see some of our conference affiliations. In most of the sports, we're part of the Empire 8, which is a regional cluster of institutions going from Buffalo over to Albany. The United Volleyball Conference is what our men participate in. Rowing participates in the Liberty League, which is a cluster of institutions that begin basically with Hobart and go all the way around and up to St. Lawrence, and then down to Bard in the Hudson Valley. And then we're part of the National Wrestling Coaches Association as well. This past spring, we had really a wonderful opportunity to host the National Division III Track and Field Championships in our Policini Track and Field Complex. This is something you have to apply for institutionally. We've hosted before the NCAA National Championships for men's golf with the help of area clubs, but this is something we're actually able to host here on our own campus. So if you haven't seen the Policini Complex, it's beautiful here. The field events are over on the South Campus, and we have a great facility over there. We actually had 5 of our female students who were able to compete in their own environment for NCAA championships as well, which we were very excited for them and happy to do that. We've been in a comprehensive campaign over the past period of years. The way the counting starts is when I started on July 1st of 2015. That's when the campaign formally began. We announced the public phase on September 19th, 2019. September 19th was the first day of class in 1951. In case those of the 3 of you who were here. So we were happy to launch the campaign publicly on that date. Our initial goal was $75 million to coincide with the 75th anniversary, and it was timed to parallel the strategic plan, which informed the priorities of the campaign. We were pleased to be able to achieve that $75 million 18 months before the deadline. The board voted to extend the timeline and the goal to 100 million, and we're moving well on that. And you can see the campaign priorities there, which hopefully in that you see some relationship back to our mission statement as well. As far as the results in fiscal 23, we raised about $9.5 million. We got over $1 million in the Fisher Fund, which was our annual giving, which is a great milestone for us. That's something that we're continuing to try to build as we go forward, because that gives the institution a little bit of a reserve of funds for things that come up that are either unplanned, unbudgeted, or opportunities that we might be able to take advantage of. And then you can see the year-end total there at about 90.5 million. Then looking at where we are as of the end of September, we're at about 93.5 million. And you can see the range of investments there that people have made. Our endowment is another one of the priorities. You know, part of our work is to secure the future of the institution as those who came before us did. And so the 1948 Society is part of this, and we're grateful to those of you who are members of that, who have left an estate intention for the institution. And then we're also good stewards of that money. The board directs each year the amount that we're able to utilize of the earnings on that, which is about 5% of a trailing 12-quarter return. And so that we've been able to reinvest in the endowment. So that's led to some of the endowment growth. And then, of course, we have scholarships that are part of that as well, which is important to helping our students continue to afford a Fisher education. The business of education remains an expensive one. Online learning, you would think, may not be as expensive because you don't need the physical assets. And aside from that, it's every bit as expensive because you need the people, the faculty, the technologies, and the associated partnerships that allow you to offer those programs. So we're grateful to those who are supporters of the institution, and we're continuing to grow that endowment value to the best of our ability so that those who come after us will have a good corpus to work with. There are 3 classes, if you will, of President's Society inductees. And so this is a society that we have created over the last couple of years, which recognizes those who have made lifetime gifts totaling 1 million or more. So we have 42 members of the President's Society. And if you wanted to see who those are, they're on the back of the pillars of Carney Hall, which we thought was an appropriate way to celebrate those who have invested at that level in the institution, in the beautiful courtyard at Carney Hall there. As we look ahead and as we've looked back, I mentioned the age of some of our facilities. There are also changing academic pedagogies, and there are ways that students are receiving information these days that are different than those were in the past. So each of our students, I think some of you know, receive an iPad, a pencil. They receive a pencil that's used on the iPad, not in the ways that some of us use pencils. So we've infused the campus with technology in ways that help the students to learn, that help the faculty members to present, and that really, in some ways, creates a connection and an efficiency between learning and the whole educational process. And so proud to say that we are an Apple Distinguished School. So that's something that we receive not by applying for it, but Apple's recognition of the degree to which Fisher has incorporated the technologies that they make available in an academic environment. So our classrooms today very often have Apple TVs. The faculty are trained. We have about 250 faculty members who are Apple certified teachers. And then all of the students have the iPads. One of the more recent initiatives is one around open educational resources, which are free texts and other types of academic materials that can be delivered very often electronically so that the student's able to have them on the laptop or in the iPad and is able to work with that technology. So that's a way of driving down some of the associated costs of education. So we're excited with that initiative, which has led to the renovation of Basil Hall initially classrooms. So I think we're up to about 8 or 10 classrooms that have been renovated. So these are some of the rooms that Basil always had. They don't look quite the same. And we're trying some different types of furnishings. So you can see the one on the left there, a little bit of an amphitheater style room, on a flat floor. The pods are colored. You can separate them out, where to put them back. And then you can see some in the bottom one, you can see some wall hangings there that are tablets that you can actually take off the wall, make notes on, and then put them back. We've extended that type of classroom to our doctoral program in education leadership. This is an example of one of those rooms. It's important to have some space where people can work in groups. And then it's important, of course, for us all to be able to come together and see whatever the orientation of the room is there. Simulated learning is a big aspect of our healthcare preparation. So both for our nurses and for our pharmacists, simulated learning is an aspect of their learning. So simulated learning in the School of Nursing We have people simulators, an adult male, an adult female, a birthing mom, child, that the nursing students are able to work with, the nursing faculty are able to communicate with them. It's an arrangement very much like it would be in a hospital or in some sort of working health center. This past year, we opened an interprofessional education simulation center in the School of Pharmacy. So interprofessional education is something that's very important for success in the healthcare environment. It brings together medical residents with pharmacists, with nurses, the array of healthcare people who will provide us services when we're patients. And it allows us to simulate some of those scenarios for the improvement ultimately of healthcare outcomes. So this area on the right is a walk-up pharmacy, more of a retail setting. So in there, Wegmans helped us with this. It's the Wegmans School of Pharmacy. We have a co-funded position with Wegmans where one of our faculty members is in the stores, bringing back information to our students who might be interested in working in retail pharmacy. So this is a sort of a demonstration unit that allows you to experience that. On the student life side, we had a beautiful facility in the Donald E. Bain Campus Center. This is an area that we opened up greatly, and the photos that you see there are today's TPAS Commons, thanks to the generosity of Dennis, who's a graduate of the class of '72, and his wife Denise, who are pictured there at the bottom. This area has really become a maximum use place for our students to just gather and be with each other. It's across from the dining hall, sits under Ward and Haffey halls. And then we learned in the pandemic that outside living was something that was really something we should take advantage of. So this is our version of outdoor living. So if you want to come by and have a nice cup of coffee some afternoon, the fire pit's generally going, the Adirondack chairs are comfortable, and you'd be right here. So that's a nice outdoor space. That's Haffey that's on the right. And then that's the campus center that extends, which today sits in front of Ward Hall. So that's a real pretty area. Across the hall from the TPAS Commons is the dining complex, which is under Ward and Haffey. So it's still in the same place that many of you knew. On the one side of that, the Haffey side, we went in and renovated it completely, and it's really a nice, quieter area than the main dining room. So this was the first phase of the renovation of our cafeteria, dining infrastructure, and there's a big late night component now that students really want food between hours that are a little bit outside of the ordinary. So they can now order, those online, and come down and pick them up, and then we can take them over to the TPAS Commons or this new Haffey space to sit and enjoy each other's company and the food. In the athletic complex, again, with an aging infrastructure, there's need for renovation. So today we have two types of fitness. This is a varsity weight room. It's used a lot more by intercollegiate athletes, heavier weights, stationary weights, as you can see here. And we have a fitness room down where the racquetball courts used to be when some of you were here. And the squash courts, those were underutilized. We converted that space into a real nice fitness area. But this, with the help of Dan Boyce, who's a graduate of the class of 1980, and his wife Shelley, we were able to go into the weight room here and renovate that actually before the start of the Bills camp this year. So the Bills have been generous to us through the years. Often they'll bring weights in from Orchard Park, and then they'll leave us equipment, which is nice for us to have. So we've built an inventory that way too. And this is an example of the fitness center, which is across from the gym in the hallway where the racquetball courts and squash courts used to be. So this is generally for faculty and staff as well as student use, and it has a lot of different aerobic activities. There's a nice room where you could do some individual work if you wanted to do that, and then obviously the array of free weights that are here too. With the opening of the Hermance Family Chapel, the chapel over at Murphy Hall became an available space for us to develop. And we've never really had a dedicated space for the arts at Fisher, though we have a really rich number of students and a great number of clubs and organizations that are in the arts, as well as classes that would lead you to, a fine arts concentration. And so the nave of the chapel is what you see here over at Murphy. And it's being developed as we speak to be a small, more along the lines of a black box theater, where we'd be able to have performance, whether it's theater, whether it's dance, music, a number of all of those types of activities today. Also on that side of Murphy, where we used to have an early learning center in the back, we closed the early learning center at the start of the pandemic. Pittsford opened up a full day kindergarten, which hurt the enrollment of our early learning center. And it was just one of those activities that during the pandemic, we thought we would be better to focus on the core business. So that space, though, in the back of Murphy Hall there, which is back toward the playing fields, we now have converted into classrooms for the fine arts. So that's a real nice space for that. And then around the back of Murphy, we have several dance studios. So it's really a nice facility. So we're referring to that right side of Murphy where the chapel had been as the Arts Center. We still have about 200 students living over there in the residence hall. And then there's a dining facility back there as well. Behind that, we've developed a athletic infrastructure primarily. This is what used to be the golf course. The golf course, I'm happy to say, Dr. Bain took offline. I did not. So I'll thank him on your behalf for making that decision. But back in there now is a beautiful infrastructure. We have Dugan Yard, which is the baseball complex. Beautiful setting for a softball complex. We have a cross-country trail that goes through there. We have the field events for track and field. And then we have this beautiful new player development facility, which will allow our athletes who are involved in baseball and softball to practice year round. So this is going to be a great new facility that is the result of Kevin Dugan, class of 70 and current trustee, his continuing investment. Dugan Yard is named for Kevin's dad, who passed away, unfortunately, at a young age. And then this facility really will help to differentiate Fisher athletics in a significant way. And then I was talking to Karen Junker, our former library director, about Lavery Library renovation. So this is a rendering of the library on the La Chase Commons side. So this is, Basil would be over here, come across the lawn, and the library is that side. The library is in the right place on campus. It's actually literally in the center of the campus as the campus has grown. It's the right size. It's about 70,000 square feet, and it's 50 years old and hasn't had any investment. And so it's had some investment. We changed a couple of the rugs through the years, but we still have the top level might still be the orange color. And in 2025, it would be 50 years old, since the opening. And today's library is really, it needs two sides, because the upper quad, which is where all the residential living is as you go out the back of Kearney, and the chapel is on the right, is now an active part of the campus, and you can't access the library really from that side. And so this is one rendering of what I would call the academic quad, and then there's going to be another opening that would be equally as nice on the upper quad. We're using it also as an opportunity to do some infrastructure movement. So we have some above ground utilities that are really not in good places as the campus has evolved. And so we're going to take those and put them underground on a new hill that will come down on the Kearney side of that building, and they'll be underground. And so it will really create a nicer connection for us, and certainly a newer and nicer facade. So we're very excited about that. Put a fire pit out in front of the library so you could have a book there too, maybe. So as you know, and as I conclude the 75th anniversary year, we've had a couple of events, a real nice one on the Feast of St. John Fisher. We did an event in early September over in the auditorium celebrating the legacy of the institution and our supporters. Campus Ministry has undertaken on our behalf leadership for volunteer activities. So you can see some of those that are listed there. We have a short video that I'll show you. Also, just to say that there are QR codes around the campus that if you click on those, you'll get a nice history of that building or, we'll give you a little bit more information about that. Of course, we have a website celebration, and then downstairs, if you haven't seen it in the gallery, there's a great exhibition that is only up for a few more weeks. It will close at the end of the fall semester. But it's the decades of Fisher, and it's really, Jack and I were talking about, it's a nice representation of the history of the institution. And then we're working on a commemorative book that will probably be available early in 2024. The only other written history that we have of Fisher is Father Haffey's book, which is on the beginnings of the institution. And it's a great book. If you haven't read it, if you send me an email, I'd be happy to send you a copy of it. It's Haffey's reflections about the selection of the site, a lot of things that went into the early stages of the campus. And it concludes with Father Lavery's eulogy for Father Haffey. And but that was the only history that we had written. So we really thought that it was important at 75 to come together and try to do that. So with the help of our university archivist, Nancy Greco, and a lot of other people, we are producing a history book. So that will be out in the early part of the year. Let me show the video. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone had or any corrections that anyone would like to offer. Hopefully you feel some of the same pride that we do in the growth and development and impact of St. John Fisher. It's really, I've said to people, you know, to look at the impact of an organization, you need only ask, I think, could you imagine Rochester without St. John Fisher? And I think the answer to that is a resounding no. And certainly we've enriched the community through the years of our growth and development from the very beginning. So I know we're proud of that. I'm very proud to have the opportunity to serve in the role that I am. And I'm very grateful to all of you for being here and for your continuing interest and in support of the institution.
What a wonderful success story, Jared.
Yes.
And has the percentage of first generation students stayed the same or gone up or down?
So the question is about the percentage of first generation students. Has it gone up, down, or stayed the same? In the early days, Jack, everyone was first generation. What we would call today first generation, because all of you came from families where
Yes.
your folks did not have benefit of education. So today, there are two measures that we look at to continue our founding mission of providing access. And that's Pell Grant recipients. Pell Grants are, by definition, the lowest income bracket of people going to college. So we have about 30% of our students today who are Pell recipients, which is, we think, is a good percentage. And then it's harder to measure first generation today because it's only for those who apply for financial aid. But of those we can identify, about 25% of the students are first generation. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So online, the Master of Public Health program is no longer listed there. I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yes, we're teaching it out. So it is not going to continue beyond the group of students who are currently enrolled. Yeah, Jim.
Can you talk a little bit about campus safety?
Yes. Campus safety is one of those paramount, items as you hear some of the things that are taking place, not only on campuses, but around. So we have a full-time safety and security team. Most of our safety and security officers are retired officers, either from the RPD, the sheriff, or the state police in New York. We are moving to protect the campus, if you will, in ways that help us to identify people who are not members of the community who might have, gained access to campus. So there are a number of things that I'd rather not talk about, but assure you that they're in place. And then we've moved toward the ability to centrally lock down the campus from a technology standpoint. So a lot of us today have ID cards that have a swipe access that we can determine where your swipe access provides you access to as an individual. And then if we needed to lock down the campus, we have the ability to do that across the campus instantly. So we have great relationships with the New York State Police, with the Monroe County Sheriff, who provides support for our team as we need it. And so we have a well-trained and well-prepared group. We also, throughout the campus, we have AEDs. Wherever there's an AED, we also have Narcan. I don't know if you know what Narcan is, but we also have EpiPens, because a lot of times when students come to campus at the collegiate level, they might for the first time experience a food allergy or something along those lines. So we try to take whatever kind of holistic precautions that we can. So I don't know if that answers your question. They're located over in Haffey, right when you're coming up from the athletic center, up the steps into Haffey. Safety and security is housed right there on the right. It's a balance, Jim. We're trying to keep the campus open. Campuses are meant to be experienced, and they're meant to be open assets for the community as well. And of course, there's a balance with anything. So we're trying to protect that as well without closing things down more than we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Leon, how are you?
You, Mr. President, can you comment a little bit about the quality of our students? Are they interested in the world? Are they in their own little worlds? Do they follow the news? Can you tell any of that?
I think they are not dissimilar from many of their peers. It depends on what level of student you're talking about, I think, Leon, too. The graduate students are, they're engaged in work typically full-time, looking for career advancement, and then they take advantage of one of the degree offerings that we have. The undergraduate level, we have primarily a traditional age population, so that they'd be between 18 and 22. I wouldn't describe I would describe them as being active and aware in the world. I don't think we have an activist orientation to the student population, although I do think this generation is very concerned about the world. They're concerned about the impact of their presence on the world, and they really have a purpose that at a younger age, I think, is far further along in its development than I remember mine being and my contemporaries, when I was younger. So I think they, like many, they're still 18 to 22. The world has changed. It's a challenging place. There's a lot of peer pressure in today's world. And I think the lingering impacts of the pandemic are still evident on both their development in high school as well as they come to us. That's why earlier when I said it feels like we're back, there's a greater sense of engagement. And that engagement, affords them the opportunity to get involved around things that they're interested in and that they pursue. It's hard to get a lot more granularity in sort of answering your question.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. Good morning. The world has become an international village. Is there hope to have international students in this institution?
There is that hope, and I know that you are from Kenya more recently, and I don't know if you know that Fisher has a long history with Kenyan Catholic priests and their education that goes back to the 1960s, I think it is, and including 5 of our graduates who have risen to the level of bishop or beyond in Kenya. The international recruitment efforts at Fisher are now beginning because as a college, which we were before June of 22, internationally, colleges are typically not viewed as higher education institutions. They're more secondary schools in the perception. So having a university title is important in many ways, but the opportunity that we see with international recruitment is one that we might be able to now more realistically pursue. So last year, as an example, which is the first year after we became a university, we saw an increase of international student application interest. That was an indicator to us that the name change had alerted a population of people that we were the type of institution we've always been, but we're better recognized as a higher education institution. So we're looking to develop some ways that we can leverage some of the connections that people on campus have in helping us to explore opportunities for international enrollments. Yeah, Don.
I have a question about the major programs in the College of Arts and Science. Now, I have read that at some universities and colleges around the country that they have closed down the major programs in areas such as philosophy or something like that. Has any of that impacted Fisher in any way?
So the question, if you didn't hear it, is about the impact of other institutions making closures. Typically, it's been in the humanities and in the arts and sciences area. And no, I have not been part of any of those discussions if they're going on. But no, I think actually maintaining those is something that helps us as an institution to continue to appear to be a strong institution, Don, as well as to actually be one in practice. Yeah. We don't have as many majors in philosophy and religious studies these days as we once did. But those disciplines are every bit as important to the
We still
academic
have
growth as
major
well. Mhm.
programs. in
We
those
do.
areas, yeah.
Yeah.
A question. Past summer, I had a chance to attend Division III track and field. And I just want to compliment Fisher. They did a superb job. But to be honest with you, local media dropped the ball. There was absolutely no coverage. No, Buffalo had coverage. Rochester. And I understand that there's a chance again to host the Division III track and field. If that's true or not.
So the question and the comment are about the local coverage of the Division III track and field championship, which we hosted, and whether or not Fisher could host again. And so you apply for those. I think it's a 3-year cycle that institutions apply for those in. So we could certainly apply again when that window would open. And the coverage is kind of what the coverage is. We operate and try to promote ourselves, certainly through social media, and but the local media, you know, the Democrat and Chronicle has been challenged staffing wise and just from a viability standpoint. And it certainly wasn't that we didn't make them aware that the event was here. The good news is there were thousands of people who came in person, many of which were from the community, but they were from far and wide as well.
Texas, California,
Mhm.
Wyoming, there
Yeah.
are people coming in. There's no coverage.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much. Our best wishes for a happy holiday. I'm here if anybody wants to chat about anything in particular.
No, not for.
Wow.
Story.
Yeah.